2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Nine Hole Podcast. This is your host, Ian Miller. I hope everybody had a great weekend. Just wanted to circle up on some baseball news that is going on around the league. Obviously, we are knee deep in the spring training game. Things are kind of unfolding. Games are taking place. Plethora of injuries are happening, right? There are some, news. There's some news around the league. Um, Biggest of which happens to be Philadelphia related. Big fan of that. We'll jump right into it. So the Phillies have finalized a new 3-year agreement with Zach Wheeler, their ace, who is currently on on the last year of a 5-year deal. So they just finalized a 3-year agreement, 3-year banger worth $126 million, right? So he is currently in the last year of a 5-year deal worth 118 million beans and has become the best free agent signing in franchise history. Wheeler and the Phillies on Monday, which is today, finalized an extension that takes effect in 2025 and runs through the 2027 season. The 3-year deal is worth $126 million. And at $42 million annually, it carries the highest average annual value for an extension in Major League Baseball history. That is insane. You get what you pay for. Obviously, Zach Wheeler has been a stud over the course of these past 5 years, and the Phillies wanted to make sure that they lock him up moving forward. So in 101 starts with Philly during these last 4 years that he has been with them, they just locked him up, I think, before the 2020 season. So in 101 starts with Philly, and during this span, he's shelled out a 43-25 record, a 3.06 ERA, and that ERA over this span that I'm alluding to trails only Corbin Burnes, Max Scherzer, and Shane Bieber. So he is amidst some elite pitchers, and obviously you are going to command that price. So the Phillies are going to pay, obviously, top dollar for that, and they locked up their ace moving forward. That's big news. But where the real value is earned, right, where the real money is made is obviously in the postseason. So in the past 2 postseasons for the Phils, the fighting Phils, he stepped up, and man, that is where the value is made. That is where people can make or break careers. That is where people can make stupid money. I am thinking back to David Freese for the Cardinals, like, what was that, 60, 65 years ago, something like that. He hit all those home runs. I'm remembering that home run to center field. Yeah, 60, 65 years ago. So the past 2 past 2 postseasons, he's stepped up, right? And that's where, that's where that real value is, man. That's where that real value is. So over the last 2 off seasons, he sported a 2.42 ERA. That is the 6th best ERA in MLB history in the postseason, right? So this guy is shelling out solid starts, quality starts, hand over fist, year over year. And when he's in the postseason, in the biggest games, he is stepping up. He is what you would call a big dick bandit. So this past postseason, this last year, right, he's had a 3-0 record in 5 appearances, right, with a 1.95 ERA. So he is continuously battle tested, and he is showing up and showing out in the biggest situations. And to just make it even more sexy, man, he is adding a changeup to his repertoire, right? So he's working on a changeup to make himself even more dangerous. That is amazing for the fighting Phils. Their lineup is sick. Their starting rotation is nasty. We'll kind of get into it a little bit. There's some stuff going on behind the scenes. Right? There's some inklings about Blake Snell. Where's he going to end up? But having Zach Wheeler for another couple of years, man, this dude is in his prime. You're not paying for the back half of, man. You're not paying for how do you want to say it, man? Like, he's in his prime, right? He's not hanging on. He's not coasting on past success, right? You are paying for 3 more years of a fucking dude, right? There are no options in this deal. He has a full no trade protection, which is sick. I don't even know what that means, but he earned it. That's big time. So the Phillies got their guy. There are rumors. There are rumors that the Phillies could have been in on Snell before this news hit. You're paying, what was this? Average 42 mil annually. You're for a top tier starter. That's a lot of money, but the Phillies have a lot of money and they're shelling it out. You're locking up a dude for 3 more years. That's an ace. Could the Phillies also make it rain towards Blake Snell as well? Right? 126 million beans to get an ace. That money starts next year. Right? So he is in the last year of his 5-year banger. That money starts next year. That could mean that the Phillies are still in the hunt for Blake Snell. Could you imagine if the Phillies were to roll out a rotation that consisted of Blake Snell, Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and Taijuan Walker? And there are a couple more in the mix, right? They have a whole bunch of depth. The left-handed starters for the Phillies, man, Ranger Suarez, Christopher Sanchez, man, you throw Blake Snell in there and you got a bunch of hungry dudes just waiting to get in the mix, waiting for an opportunity, waiting to pick up wherever there's slack. If they get Blake Snell, GG's, everybody. Good game. GG's. I already had the Phillies winning the World Series. They lock up Snell as well, man. It's over. It's over, right? And as we progress later into spring training, it becomes a little bit more like, man, what's going to happen with Montgomery? What's going to happen with Snell? Like, obviously, they're staying ready, but you want them to get acclimated in the locker room. You want everybody to kind of get accustomed to each other, especially if you're going to be fighting for Red October. Man, that's fantastic. The hunt for Red October, man. Yeah, so Snell's price and the years that are kind of, he's asking for are starting to drop. So obviously he's representing by Scott Boras, who also represents Montgomery. So it's going to be interesting to see as the years required to lock up Snell and maybe his price drop a little bit. It could make it even more interesting, man, especially as we creep closer to opening day. The Phillies lineup and the Phillies starting pitching are going to be absolutely nuts, right? These dudes are in their prime. They're not getting washed up dudes that are hanging on to past glory is what I wrote. I love that. Fires me up. The NL East consists of the Braves, the Marlins, the Nationals, the Mets, and the Phillies, right? And the Blake Snell sweepstakes, man, it's getting exciting to watch. We are getting closer to opening day. Where's he going to land? Right? So the number of clubs that are interested in Blake Snell seem to be increasing. Scotty B, better known as Scott Boras, has said that, man, there are now 4 more teams, 4 more clubs that are interested in calling him, reaching out, seeing what's going on with Snell Daddy, Snellzilla, and Mr. Montgomery as spring training has started. The 3 teams that have been the most rumored to be the most on these 2 studs have been the Yankees, the Phillies, and the Angels. Teams with money, teams that have cash, teams that are ready to deploy that cash. Now, obviously, with the Zach Wheeler news, that might take a little bit out of that war chest for the Phillies, but they still have flexibility. It would be awesome to see this happen. As it pertains to the NL East, I don't see anybody really competing with the Phillies, especially now that Ronald Acuna, there's some question marks surrounding that knee. We will get into that here in a little bit. But with the Blake Snell sweepstakes and Jordan Montgomery sweepstakes, man, it would be interesting to kind of see, obviously, where they end up. The Phillies, it would be unbelievable to lock up any one of those guys, especially Blake Snell. The Yankees are nasty. We'll touch on them in a little bit. But there are injuries as we progress through spring training, as we get pitchers ramping up, as we get pitchers, extending the amount of times and the pitches and the innings that they are out there. Some guys are made of fucking glass, right? The older people will start to weed out a little bit. On to Justin Verlander, right? So the Astros, man, the Astros dude, Justin Verlander is battling a right shoulder issue, and there could be an immediate need to help that rotation. Right? Justin Verlander is a dude on a team that is looking to compete. So what are they going to do? Right? They have some cash. Deploy it. Make it rain. Let's see. But the most interesting team that obviously could need the most help right now is the Blue Jays. So they were obviously in on Ohtani. They were making a push for Artani. The Blue Jays were in on Ohtani. They were making a push for Ohtani. But they now have a plethora of injuries on the pitching front as we are progressing through spring training. Kevin Gossman. This is going to be funny. Ricky Tiedemann. I said it right, I'm pretty sure. The Blue Jays' #1 prospect, Alek Manoah, who I thought was going to be a bounce-back candidate after having a pretty tough/dumpy year this past year. He's an absolute stud, man. So I was expecting him to have a big year this year. And Yariel Rodriguez. Kevin Gossman, shoulder fatigue. He was scheduled for a bullpen today. He's not throwing, right? Tiedemann, the Blue Jays' #1 Toronto prospect, has a hammy. He's got a hammy. He just faced live hitters yesterday. Doesn't seem to be too far out. We will see what's going on there. Manoah has some shoulder soreness, the throwing shoulder. He had a bullpen on March 1st, and he had to stop halfway through. Not serious concerns, man, but that is a lot of pitchers. Then you factor in Mr. Rodriguez, right? Back spasms. In his last bullpen session, he is hoping to face live hitters soon. These aren't insane injuries, right? But when you're talking about maybe 2 or 3 starters, right? You're talking about 4 pitchers for the Blue Jays that are all on the shelf right now, getting banged up this early in spring training. That raises some serious questions, especially if they're looking to be contenders, if they're looking to compete. They have a bunch of young talent. I just saw that, what's his name, just went deep. Yadi. Nah, not Yadi. Was it Yadi? Who's the third baseman for the dumb space? Dude, I should know this. Let's see. Let's see here. What do we got? Yeah, Vlad, dude. Yadi. Vladimir Guerrero just went deep off the Phillies, man. So they got a bunch of young talent, right? We'll see what happens, dude. They could be in serious need moving forward, man, especially with the plethora of guys that are hurt right now. Back to the NL East, as alluded to, Ronald Acuna Jr. has a little bit of a knee, right? He's coming off of that right knee ACL surgery, and it seems that he was just in a rundown on the 1st. I believe that was Friday, a couple of days ago, man. And he might have banged that knee up a little bit, right? So it looks like he has meniscus irritation after an MRI, right? That was done that day. Hoping to be ready by opening day if there's no, new injuries, new glaring injuries, new glaring problems. But this could potentially be a big blow to the Braves, especially with the Phillies making so much fucking noise. Who's going to compete with the Phillies? Who is going to compete with the Phillies, man? Not these guys. I do not believe. Now we got Juan Soto over with the Yankees. Obviously, the Yankees made a splash bringing in Juan Soto. And there seems to be a bit of a Juan Soto, Aaron Judge bromance happening. Home run competitions, bunt competitions, talking strategy, a whole bunch of press media coverage. Obviously, you're in fucking New York, so if you fart, it's going to be a big deal surrounding it, especially if your last name is Soto, Judge, Rizzo, LeMahieu, any of that stuff, right? Can't move anywhere without, sparking a huge debate. Whole bunch of press media coverage. Juan Soto launched his 3rd spring training home run on Sunday, going 2 for 3 in New York's 7-2 Grapefruit League loss to the Tigers. Soto is currently 6 for 9 with 5 extra base hits in his first 4 games. So this guy has 6 hits and 5 extra base hits, 3 ding-dongs. That's big, man. That's a big sign there for the Yankees. Obviously, they made a huge splash bringing him in. The top of the order, top 4 hitters here, looking like it's going to be DJ LeMahieu, Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, and Anthony Rizzo, who is looking like he is back. He says he's back, coming back from a post-concussion syndrome from May 28th when he collided with Fernando Tatis. It seems that Anthony Rizzo's back. Right, that's going to be another staple in that lineup, right? So that top 4 hitters right there, LeMahieu, Soto, Judge, and Rizzo. Who's going to compete? I don't know, man. Who's going to compete with the Phillies? I don't know, man. That's who I got. That's who I got, right? Yeah, that's who I got in the World Series, man. Yanks Phils. Let's go. Yanks Phils. Moving on. Some other news, right? We got some love, some love news here. Some marital news, some post-marital. Haven't said that in a while. Post-marital. Shohei Ohtani, Mr. Ohtani-san, announced last week that he'd gotten married this offseason to a Japanese woman. There was some rumors circulating that he had married an ex like WNBA or ex, basketball player, but he said no, she is a regular Japanese woman and he is very private, which is I think is pretty sick. He didn't want any distractions during the season, and I have nothing but respect for that. So he tied the knot this offseason before arriving to spring training. He had alluded to actually no, he said he came out and said that this, this marriage did not affect where he was going to end up. She is very respecting of his career and his dream and his day-to-day fucking grind. So she is currently out in spring training with him. And man, she just loves the process. She's just there for the ride. Great, good for her. Good for you, Mr. Ohtani-san. And it adds to the legend of Shohei Ohtani being private, especially in a big market like that, man. You're telling me that this guy was the number one buzz of the offseason? This guy was the number one buzz of the offseason, not just in this country, but in Japan. And this number one marriage, right? The biggest star-studded marriage, right? Just went under the radar. That's awesome. Good for him. That adds to the legend. I got nothing but respect for that, especially being in Los Angeles. Mr. Ohtani is facing the Angels today. His old teams, former team, and he is hitting 714 so far in spring, which is obviously it's a small sample size, but it's great to see. Coming back from that elbow injury, so he's not gonna be pitching, right? So he's gonna need to show up with the bat. We know that. Yesterday went 3 for 3 with a triple and 2 RBIs against the Rockies. Has reached base in 7 consecutive plate appearances, which is pretty hot. He's scheduled to start in back-to-back days today and tomorrow as he recovers from that elbow surgery that will keep him away from pitching for the year. I would love to reiterate that he's got a $700 million banger contract with a plethora of deferred money. Love it. I absolutely love it. It just adds to the legend of Shohei Ohtani. I love it. Who's going to compete with them? Phillies. I got the Phillies not only competing but dominating them. Sorry about it. It is what it is. I don't think Yamamoto is going to be a stud this year. That's a hot take. It is what it is. Moving on. We are going to trickle on over to college baseball here as we wrap up. Two big stories popping out, man. We got a Georgia Tech freshman just creating an absolute fucking splash in the Division I baseball world, in the college baseball world, in the baseball world overall. Somebody to keep an eye on. His name is Drew Burress. Man, he is a 5'9" freshman outfielder. So he's a little guy, right? Little guy packs a big punch, man. Kind of reminds me of a little Breggy, Alex Bregman. Little guy with a big bat, right? He's a freshman at Georgia Tech. Man, he has 10 home runs in his first 10 college games. Imagine that. Imagine that. He's got 21 RBIs and 13 runs scored in those first 10 college games, including a 4 home run appearance against Georgia State and only swinging the bat 4 times. That is fucking absurd. That is elite, however you want to say it. Burress was a highly regarded prospect, ranked number 18 nationally by Perfect Game, coming out of Houston County High School in Georgia. But he was intent on going to college and was not picked in the 2023 MLB draft. Good for you, Mr. Burress. Good for you. There are already 2026 MLB draft boards, man. They're already in existence, which is, 16 years out, whatever that is, by Perfect Game. And Burress is the number 3 overall prospect, right? That's a couple years out. I don't know how this dude is at number 1. Obviously, keep doing what you're doing. That's hot. It's going to be tough to not think that this dude could be a 1-1. Would have to maybe see how the glove plays. You're an outfielder. Can you play center? Can you play center? Dude, if you can run, if you can run, you're a 1-1, especially with that bat. You know what I'm saying? How insane is that? 10 home runs, 10 Jimmy Johns in his first 10 college games. I was a Division I walk-on. I was a Division I college player in a uncomparable conference for a school that cannot be in the same conversation as Georgia Tech. And dude, I was shivering. I was shivering in the outfield starting as a freshman. I can't even imagine. I can't fathom how insane this is as a college freshman, putting up these type of numbers, creating this type of buzz. Mr. Burris, I hope you cash in. Literally and figuratively, the NIL space is the fucking wild, wild west right now, which begs the question. I'm not sure which way to say that, right? Brings up the question. If the NIL game is so strong, is he going to stay at Georgia Tech? Right? Georgia Tech is not in the SEC. Does an SEC team come in this offseason? Let's say Drew is on pace to hit 50 home runs in 60 games, whatever it is. Let's say he puts up 30, 40 home runs, which is absurd. Does a team in the SEC that is looking to compete, an LSU, right, an Arkansas, whoever it is, do they come in here, Georgia, Alabama, and they just throw, hey, man, how about 500 G's? How about $1 million to come over here and lead our team to the College World Series, man? How doesn't that happen? How doesn't that happen? Georgia Tech is currently 7-3, and they are pretty solid, but they are not a fucking SEC caliber school. They're not an SEC caliber baseball team. Sorry to say, is what it is. Is what it is. It would be hard for me to imagine that, an Alabama, an LSU, like somebody is going to come in with a whole bunch of, SEC money and just make it rain. Hey, let's see where the allegiance lies. Like, man, are you dead set on Georgia Tech? We could make your stay here up until this 2026 draft a little bit more enjoyable with a couple zeros on the end of your NIL paycheck, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how Drew Burris cashes in, literally and figuratively. But the 5'9" outfielder with 10 home runs and 10 college games as a freshman is absolutely insane. It is elite, and it is going to be exciting to see if it's maintainable throughout the rest of the season, and at the end of the season, what those numbers look like. Good for you, Mr. Burris. We are watching. The nation is watching. Last, that was a cool story, right? This isn't as cool, man. So Jack Martinez and the Ragin' Cajuns, the Louisiana baseball team, the Ragin' Cajuns took on Vanderbilt. I believe it was, I'm not sure if it was at Globe Park, however you want to say it, the Texas Rangers. I'm not sure where they were playing, but it was a major league stadium. I should know that. Stinks. Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns baseball team faced Vanderbilt this past week, and there were some words in the dugout, along with some hands being put on people. I'm sure you've seen a little bit of a clip from that. So Jack Martinez had given up a home run and the lead, and at the end of the 7th inning came off the mound heated and walking into the dugout. I am not a lip reader, but he clearly says, "What the fuck are we doing? I have 4 fucking pitches." Right? He is a D3 transfer, a Division II transfer. Man, he came over. He's an absolute stud. He's a unit, and he's obviously in a big spot. You're on live TV, and you give up the lead, right? You give up a ding dong, and it's not a good look. It's not a good look. I get it, man. You're heated. You're in the moment. But he comes in and he screams, "What the fuck are we doing? I have 4 fucking pitches." And the pitching coach and the head coach both take turns sizing him up, grabbing him by the jersey, and propelling him, kind of just, pushing him, saying, "Get the fuck in the tunnel. Get down there. We'll handle it." Man, yeah, it was a tough look. Grabbed him by the jersey, but there's 2 sides of the coin there. Obviously, you love the fire. You love seeing your Friday night, your number one dude, being that fired up, caring, obviously, right? That dude doesn't want to give up a 3-run tater. That guy does not want to do that. He does not want to give up the lead. I'm not sure what pitches were called, but him alluding to him saying, "I have 4 fucking pitches," basically means he's unhappy about maybe doubling up, tripling up, quadrupling up, quintupling up on a fastball, a slider, curveball, changeup, whatever he's got, right? So that's a tough look. In my opinion, it might also be tough that the coach is calling the pitches, right? There's able to be blame shifted if Mr. Martinez, if Jack Martinez wants to put all of the pressure on himself, have him call the games. That way he's going to be held accountable, right? So Jack is on TV, gets tittied, comes in, and is able to put the blame on somebody else. Well, big dog, you want that pressure, go ahead and take it. But that's on you with your ERA. Coming from where you're coming from, I understand you have an electric arm. But you might not be accustomed to the Division One. You're facing Vandy, dude. Facing Vandy. Those boys can bang. You're gonna get hit. I understand it. I'm sure there's MLB scouts in the stands. That's a tough fucking look. That is a tough look, right? You can't get up in the manager's face, the pitching coach's face, calling somebody out like that. You can't do it. On the flip side, the pitching coach immediately gripped him up. The manager got him as well. There was another coach, got a hand in there. Multiple hands. There's like 7 hands on this kid. Boop, right up against the dugout. Throwing him over there to the dugout. Dude, it's tough. Could it have been handled better? Yes, it could have been handled better on both sides. It seems as though nobody really got fired. There wasn't a whole bunch of press on it, so there really wasn't a whole lot of questions, a lot of media coverage on it. Maybe I'm the only one overreacting about it, but could have been handled a little bit differently. It's tough for me to understand that they didn't come out and address it, right? I will be watching as we are moving forward. That's tough. That is tough, man. But I love the fire. Like I love how fired up the college baseball players get. Obviously, they care, and it's all about winning. It's all about winning. And as we progress through the season, I got the Phillies winning it all. And I got East Carolina winning the College World Series. Said that about a couple weeks ago, man. It's going to be interesting to see, especially with all the NIL money being floated around, where Mr. Burris ends up. And I got the Phillies winning it. ECU winning the College World Series. You heard it. You heard it here, man. We will follow back up here in 2 days. We are scheduled to have an ex-teammate of mine right up there with the Cubbies, Albert Almora, who is a current outfielder with the Arizona Diamondbacks, already making fucking unbelievable catches. Just being a couple days in with the team, just announced that he signed probably last week, man. So it's great to see him out there already flying around, making some fucking stuff happen in the outfield. We will have him on here. I say we, it's Daddy, it's me. I will have him on here on Wednesday to talk about his journey, talk about being a World Series champion, man, talk about his story. It's going to be lights out. On Friday, I'm going to be joined by James Jones, who was a left-handed pitcher, right? But he was an outfielder, man. So he was a Northeast grinder. He went to LIU Brooklyn, and he was an outfielder, just absolute stud. Could fly, big dude, 6'4", lefty, and he kind of transitioned to a pitcher in the back half of his career. Kind of made a splash there, man. I'll let him tell the story. It's unbelievable. You can draw inspiration from it. So we got some big stuff planned, man. Plan to get on the sticks here pretty soon. Get some video games incorporated. We'll see. We'll see, man. Got some cool things in the works here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I will catch you guys again here on Wednesday. Have a good one. See ya.